Thank you. So I'm delighted to be here presenting our paper entitled Be a Plumber. My colleague, Dr. Anine Riege, is based in the University of Oslo, where she works as a consultant, also in the Nudge Lab, and she researches judgment and decision-making, particularly behaviour change interventions. I'm based here at Kingston University. I work on careers and decision-making. In fact, this is my third experience of a digital hype cycle. Before I entered academia, I worked in commerce. I sold the first portable PCs in the UK in the 1980s when I was asked, but why would anyone want to carry a computer around with them? And then at the turn of the millennium, I founded a .com, and we went to venture capitalists for funding, and they said, but what's your business model? How will you make money? Nobody will put their credit cards online. It's much too risky. And now I advise a property tech startup. So I have some experience of hype cycles. And my colleague Anine Riege and I, we wondered, well, how is AI anticipated to affect jobs? We know there'll be a lot of change, but then the Luddites during the Industrial Revolution, the change that they feared came about. Their own jobs went, but there were plenty more jobs for them to take on. John Maynard Keynes in the 1930s, he warned that by the time of his grandchildren, we'd have problems filling our leisure time because machinery would do all the work. But it does seem that AI job displacement is rather different. It's already happening, replacing very repetitive manual work, say in data input in call centres. So this is moving to white collar work that we never expected to be replaced. Even in the future accountants and lawyers this year are not being recruited in the same numbers because AI can do the basic repetitive work that the graduate accountants and lawyers used to do. We're already enhancing our own jobs, I assume, using AI for summarizing documents, preparing slides. And in fact, I generated some illustrations for this talk from Copilot. So we're wondering what the AI-enhanced workplace will look like and feel like. We're expecting polarization between the super rich tech giants, maybe some poorer workers who are doing the manual labor that isn't worth inventing a robot to do. This is slightly futuristic, but with an unemployed middle of former white collar workers. Geoffrey Hinton, termed the godfather of AI, was asked, well, what will you do? What advice would you give for careers for my child? And he said, well, the remaining jobs might be skilled manual labor that's hard to digitize and robotize. Therefore, I recommend be a plumber. So we look back to the career theory, the existing career literature, to say, well, what sort of patterns? Everyone's saying it's either extreme, either all or nothing. You either get a job or you don't. But what we envisage is more polarized. Yes, some people will be fully committed to their work the way they are in the tech giants. Their attitude to work will be still one of work centrality. It'll dominate their values and their life, give them meaning and purpose. Other people will be seeking, as they already do, more work-life balance. Will this be possible? Our first question was about work structure. If AI continues to take over more jobs, we anticipate that work will be discontinuous and disrupted. So we look to the literature. There is literature on the gig economy. Working may be on a more project basis. Women's careers, as they're called, a bit old-fashioned, but it means when you stop your career, maybe interrupt it for childcare, maybe come back as a returner, interrupt it for elder care, and later on as a grandparent take over caring for the next generation, but constantly returning to the workplace. This might be a model that might be more suitable for many more people as their work is increasingly interrupted. Bridge employment is a concept in career literature where you cease your main employer, but you still take on either new work or less intensive work and the same work, usually considered to be on the way to retirement, but that's all changing. The retirement literature itself talks about increasingly about volunteering and in retirement, contributing to society and re-careering. So we found some models, and one of the questions about AI is, I think Dr. Fraguli already raised this idea about a rather sense of helplessness in the face of AI and dependency. And in the literature, we do ask the question, are people in charge of their own careers? In the 1990s, very much it talked about boundaryless careers. You could change employer, change your job. You could have a protean career, reinventing your skills for the requirements of the new organization. But then the sociologists have come back into force and talked about, well, the organizations are very determine very much your career prospects with their own needs and their own career paths and scripts. And very much people's aspirations are determined by historical, family, and social values, which may no longer apply in an AI-enhanced environment. So what's the advice in the career literature so far when your job disappears? Very much proactive career self-management. So we need to develop resilience and expect that our jobs will continually disappear. We'll need to reinvent ourselves. There's a concept of career inaction, basically hoping for the best, which will definitely lead to the very worst outcomes. So we need to be proactive in preparing people and thinking about how jobs will change. One of the major recommendations is lifelong learning. Of course, that suits us as academics and we get more students, but in fact, it has been shown to be very effective in the face of obsolescence, job obsolescence. Those people who suffer career shocks, which is another concept in the literature, but are already engaged in lifelong learning, find new employment much more readily. What about people's values and meaning and their purpose in life if AI takes all the interesting work? Well, sustainable career theory suggests that workers should be happy, healthy, and productive. And we are proposing that maybe that productivity should not just be measured in economic terms like GDP and GDP growth, but very much contribution to society in much more of a caring, volunteering role. All the things that are lacking in our society could possibly be fulfilled by people who are temporarily retraining and not in permanent full-time employment. We talk about the psychological contract in HR and in career literature, what people expect from their employer and what they expect to give to their employer. And again, maybe this should be more based, and we should work towards basing this on your complete expectation of a sort of social contract, going back to Rousseau in the 18th century, what you expect to give to society and derive from society. Maybe there's also some hope in the literature looking at the new generation just entering the workforce, Generation Z or Gen Z as they're known. Whilst they are still ambitious, they're much more accepting of gig type, project-based work, and also maybe more interested in an increase of work-life balance. Indeed, our own research, we're currently looking at empirically at executives and the way a lot of their careers are becoming disruptive later. So they may have their apparent job for life as they start, but increasingly they'll find that career shocks come in the form of redundancy, job change and so on, or even personal change where they wish to do something different or wish to rebalance their lives. And we're looking at various strategies at the moment for re-engagement, reinvention of yourself, maybe taking a career break or moving to part-time or voluntary work. And that's coming out in our own research. So in conclusion, we don't know what's going to happen to the future workplace, but most scenarios predict that AI will either displace or enhance many jobs, including for the first time, the white-collar roles. The career literature does have some indications that can help us to envisage something about a discontinuous work that might happen and how we might exit and re-enter the workforce. We probably should be using AI to enhance all our capabilities in our lives already. And maybe that'll enable us to become in a visionary, more idealistic world, more self-sufficient, a recycling economy. Maybe we can learn to gain practical skills as we are already looking at how to on WikiHow online. And maybe we can even be our own plumber. But I've no doubt you're thinking of the big elephant in the room that you think I've probably forgotten about. In career literature, we're rather idealistic about meaning from work and giving back to society. There's a big question mark, however. Most people don't just go to work for meaning. They go to work for money. How are they going to support their family and earn a living? And that is the crunch. And what are we going to do about it? There is absolutely no doubt in the literature, both in economics and career literature, we already discussed the concept of universal basic income, UBI. It's a bit like the sort of furloughing payments that were paid out during COVID, but at a much lower level. It's for basic subsistence. It has been tried as an actual practical experiment in various places, including in a location in Canada. Discontinued because it's expensive, but this might be the way we have to go. Now, who will do this? We, the tech giants apparently are making a lot of money from this, although there's big questions at the moment about the stock market prices, but they're making a lot of money. Looking at their attitude towards their workers and the longer term, I think their motto is move fast and break things. So maybe it's not the tech companies who are going to be providing that support network for the unemployed workers who are displaced by AI. I think we're going to look to governments, despite what Dr. David Graves said about, the lack of initiative taken by governments. I think it will fall to governments to look after those people. And we should already be setting aside any economic benefits from AI as it displaces workers in greater efficiency to pay for those, to start to put funds into paying for people as they continually come out of work, maybe need to retrain to make themselves AI enhanced. Now, that we can do things as academics in management. We can encourage people to reevaluate their contribution to society so that psychologically they can face up to the discontinuity of their work. It's always a great career shock to find that you lose your job, and people will need to be prepared for a different model of working. In more practical terms, as academics and educators, we have a great opportunity and I feel responsibility. And Dr. Graves already referred to the fact that this is a great controversy within academia. Our own position is that we need to encourage the students to use more AI, both in class and in their assignments. For instance, in HR, I can tell the students, look at the benefits, investigate for me the benefits of how AI is improving mass recruitment and looking through CVs on the one hand, but then tell them to report back to me and present to me about the dangers they've found referred to, the dangers of basically building in and baking into the system all the prejudices there. They look at successful leaders in industry and they say, well, they're obviously white American males, so those are the people we'll try to recruit for our business, without realizing that this is baking in and perpetuating prejudices within the system. So we need to get those students to not only be AI skilled, but AI skeptical. And that is my big message to you for the future. We need creativity combined with critical thinking. And it's our great opportunity and responsibility as academics, educators, and in management to introduce this into the universities and into the students who will be the workplace of the future. Thank you very much for listening. There are the academic references and the fuller arguments in our paper. I do hope you enjoy reading it. Do you have any questions?